The Apostle Paul is a master when it comes to teaching both married people and single people. And by the way, he was single. And his first statements here that we read are important. He says, verse 32, I would like for you to be free from concern or free from anxiety. Let me tell you, if you ever have a conversation with a single adult, let me tell you some questions never to ask. You never ask them, so why aren't you married yet? Don't ask that. So how's your love life? Don't ask that. What's a nice guy or a nice girl like you still doing single? Don't ask that. Isn't your biological clock getting pretty loud by now? Don't ask that. When are you going to settle down and get married? Don't ask that. Let me tell you some other questions that are fair questions when you're speaking with someone who's single. You can ask, so how's your job? What kind of hobbies do you have? What are some of the interesting places you've traveled to? Where are some of the places you've volunteered? What do you think about the shutdown of our government? I mean, those are fair questions. But you don't ask a single person the kinds of questions that's going to just create disturbance. You don't do that. Now, you may think that, well, Pastor, what business do you have to teach about singleness? You're married. You're right. In fact, July of 2014, I'll be married for 30 years. And so you may say, wow, you married that long? Yeah, well, you know how it is here in America. You can get married when you're 3 years old. but you know, that qualifies me to talk about single life. Because I've been married successfully and happily in a healthy marriage for 30 years. So, and I know how to pick them. How many understand that? Okay, so that qualifies me. The other thing that qualifies me is I'm your pastor, and I can teach you about the whole Bible, the counsel of the Bible. Okay, so, but let's talk about the single life, because my heart is for you to be a fulfilled single person. That's God's heart. And here Paul said, I would like you to be free from concern. And so one of the things we must be mindful of as a single person is this. A single person's life should never be put on pause. One of the biggest traps that singles fall into, and please listen, you may say, well, I'm married, I don't need to hear this. Oh, if you have children, you better know how to hear this. Because you're going to have to talk with your children one day when they're single, before they get married. Or if they never get married, you have to be there to talk with them. And so I want you to understand how to talk with them and what to share with them. And you may have to guide someone else in singles ministry or single life, what it means to be a fulfilled single. Listen, singles, one of the biggest traps that singles fall into is when they say to themselves, and they may not have said it audibly, out loud, but they may have said it inside, is that when I'm married, I'll do this. After I get married, I'll finally be happy. And so lots of singles fall into the trap of pressing the pause button to their life, waiting then that they'll really live when they get married. You can't do that. Paul says, I would like for you to be free from anxiety, stress, agita. And so what I've learned is this: if you're not happy when you're single, you're not going to be happy when you're married. Happiness doesn't start at the altar when you exchange nuptials. Happiness begins in your heart. And so I've seen it so many times. An unhappy person who's single gets married thinking that's the solution, and then they just become frustrated, unhappy while they're married, and they bring two people into their frustration. And so I want you not to put your life on pause while you're single. In other words, go out there, make a career. Be the best that you can be in whatever you're doing. Climb the ladder, the corporate ladder, or wherever you work vocationally. Climb the ladder of success. Go and buy a house, even if it's a 4 or 5 bedroom house. Sleep in a different bedroom every night. What difference does it make? Just live your life in a way where you're not sitting around waiting for someone, because that's when life begins. Life doesn't begin there. Life begins. There's a passage in the scripture that says, being in the way the Lord led me. In other words, as I'm doing life, I'll connect with someone as they're doing life. But if you're sitting there waiting, what are you doing? How come you don't go to school? I don't want to be smarter than my husband. Are you married? No, but I just don't want to scare him off, because if I'm really brilliant, then that may frighten him. Or I don't want to be smarter than my wife to be, so I'm not going to go and get educated. No way. I mean, so here you are waiting around. And I'm saying, don't put your life on pause.